Hello again, this is Mr. Petrie, and we are looking at a couple of examples of adding fractions when we have unlike denominators, and we're going to use a couple of different strategies to solve that. So for the first one, we're looking at 4/9 and 5/12. We're going to add those two numbers together, and as you can see, 9 and 12 are not the same denominator. So in order to add, we know we need to have like denominators. So one of the strategies I'm going to use, I'm going to actually find the lowest common multiple, and to do that I'm going to find all the factors and the common factors between the two of them. So I've got my 9 and my 12, and I think, are there any numbers that go into both of those? Yeah, I know that 3 can divide evenly into both 9 and 12. 3 goes into 9 3 times, it goes into 12 4 times, and these are all of the unique factors. 3 and 4 are all unique for 9 and 12. And I know that if I multiply these numbers together, 3 times 3 times 4, I get 36. And this is actually going to be my lowest common multiple. And therefore, it's the lowest common denominator that I can use between 4/9 and 5/12. So now that I know what my lowest common denominator is going to be, I'm going to use my knowledge of equivalent fractions. And I know that to get from 9 to 36, I have to multiply by 4. So the same thing with the 4 over here. It gives me 1636. And then 12 times 3 is 36. So 5 times 3 is 15. And then I just add the two together, and I get 31/36. And the best part about using this strategy, by taking out any of the common factors, it does give me the lowest common denominator, and it means I don't have to reduce unless I had an improper fraction, in which case I would change it to a mixed number. But because I am using the lowest common factor, the lowest common denominator, I don't have to reduce later on. So that's pretty helpful. All right, well, let's look at a different one. One thing I can do is I can just multiply the two denominators, 40 times 15, and that equals 600. And then I know, what I did to these was multiply them by each other. So this is going to be times 40. And this one will be times 15. So I do 25 times 15, and that equals 375. And then I do 40 times 7, that's 280. And then I'm going to add those two together. And I get a total of 280 plus 375. It equals 655 600ths. And I know that is not its lowest term, so I can make that a mixed number, 55 or 600. And I know that 5 goes into both of those. So I've got my whole, and I've got 11/120. So, just to compare the two strategies, here where I multiplied them together and then I reduced later on, if I'd used 40 and 15 and I'd looked for my common multiples like I had up here, I can find that 5 goes in, and that leaves me with 8 and 3. And since there's no factor that goes into both 8 and 3, that's as low as I can go. And if I multiply those together, 5 times 8 is 40 times 3. I get to 120. So it saves me reducing later on, and it's a little bit easier to reduce those smaller numbers. Okay, so let's take a look at the last one. Some larger numbers here. We've got 32/36 plus 17/54. And again, I'm going to use the same strategy. And this is going to show you, even if you don't know right away some of the numbers that can divide evenly, some of the larger numbers, you can start small. So if you look at that and say, oh, I know 2 can go into both of those, that gives me 18 and 27. Okay, I'm looking at those two numbers. 2 can't divide equally into both of them, but 3 can. And that goes in 6 times, and that goes in 9 times. Oh, look at this. I can take out 3 from each of those again. This gives me 2, and this gives me 3. So I can see here that if I multiply all of these numbers together, I'm actually going to get a total of 108. And this is the lowest common denominator that I can use. So then if using 108 as my common denominator, so I can see that 36 goes into 108 3 times. And that gives me 96. And this goes in twice, which is 34. If I add those two together, I end up with 130 over 108. And then if I reduce that, I can get 1 and 22. Yeah, 1 and 22. 108. And then if I reduce that, I'm going to end up with 1 and 11 54ths. So that would be my final answer.